Let's turn now to Ukraine itself, the government in Kiev. As we say in this country, they seem to be between a rock and a hard place, because if they do not act, if they're passive in the face of aggression by Russia or the separatists backed by the Russians, then they look like they're not acting in their own interess, and they invite more Russian aggression. If they act, then Russia can say, look, you're provoking us to violence, you are, threatening the Russian speakers. They really caught. How do you see their response, and what more can the United States, the European do to help the government in Kiev?
Well, here I'd like to compliment the government, because so far they have been very determined, they have been calm, they haven't used armed forces. Nobody wants another war. Nobody wants any type of war in Ukraine. What we can do, we have to support them. We have to support the government in Ukraine, in Kiev. We have to support it politically, meaning visits, political dialogues, assuring Ukrainians that we don't support any deals behind them or over their heads, like it happened in Yalta or in other places. So whatever Ukrainian people decide to do, we support it. Whether they decide to be members of EU or whatever the decisions they have the right to make their decisions themselves. We have to support them economically, because we understand that raising in a recent couple of weeks the price of gas and then trade barriers from the Russian side have hit Ukrainian economy. We know that Ukraine still has the problem of corruption, and here we have to support them. And that's the reason why the EU has decided to promote trade with Ukraine more, even before we signed the free trade agreement with Ukrainians. And that's the reason why we're encouraging Ukrainians to make as many progressive reforms as they can, to be prepared for the May 25th elections, to have open, transparent, democratic elections, because that's the answer to the Russians who will see that Ukraine has chosen the path and Ukraine is doing their part.
But do you think we will get to that day? I mean, things are so tense now between Ukraine and Russia that one wonders if the breakup of the country is really imminent, and the potential for violence and bloodshed very real. What are your thoughts? Is this, in your view, perhaps the first step on a slippery slope on behalf of the Russians and Putin in particular, to just start to, chip away at Ukraine, to try to break it up, and then perhaps go elsewhere to try to recreate, the empire before the breakup of the Soviet Union?
It's very difficult to say what is in Mr. Putin's mind. We see only what they have done so far. They have the Council of Federation resolution, which allows the use of force. We see that they used force in Crimea. We see the acts in Ukraine. I think that, yes, Russia is doing everything they can not to allow Ukrainians have elections on May 25th. What we can do, and we have to do everything we can, as I said, with the political support, financial support, economic support, but also with sending international monitoring groups, in the very soon future, electoral monitoring groups to Ukraine, to be present there, to show that we are here, we see what's really happening, you will not be able to deceive us, and even with that, support Ukrainians. They are in a very difficult position. And then there is a bit more than a month left until the May elections. And for them, it is important to have elections, to do progress, and to be closer to the EU if it's the decision of the people.